This is the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson. A Mexican mining firm, Grupo Mexico, said it had filed a motion against a ruling against a Supreme Court decision, the Delaware Supreme Court, which ended up in Grupo being ordered to pay around $2 billion to Southern Copper Corp. Now, this involved the sale of assets. And the ruling came down in October of 2011. And essentially what it said was that Southern Copper paid $1.26 billion, and this was an overpayment, and now Grupo needs to pay the money back. Now, what this is an example of how U.S. courts can protect firms that are involved with foreign firms. U.S. firms can, in fact, go to our court system, our federal court system in particular. In most cases, there are certain cases where state courts may be involved, but that is a very, very rare thing. Primarily, you're looking at issues of federal courts when you're dealing with foreign companies. And you may actually get some degree of relief if you feel that there's been a problem with the way the deal was done in the foreign country. Now, the reason that this is important from a political risk standpoint is not a legal discussion we're having. What I'm trying to point out to you by using this particular case as an example is that all is not lost due to political risks in the form of legislation and legal rulings in foreign countries. If you just happen to be an American foreign direct investor or business, if there is a problem, you can actually go to our courts and try to get some degree of relief. And this is provides some degree of comfort. However, as we all have seen in the past, with the best example being the hostages held in Iran from 1979 to 1980, you very well may never get a dime out of a foreign country or a foreign corporation that you feel has damaged you in some way. The laws that you have to abide under in a foreign country that are adverse to your interests are a political risk. And you need to know what those laws are before you get involved. Try to follow them the best that you can. And in this way, you will be able to avoid having to go to our court to try to get relief that may never come. So don't be fooled by the fact that, well, it doesn't matter, and I always can go to a U.S. court and get this resolved. Sometimes rulings are not as valuable as the paper they are printed on. And I cannot speak and will not speak to any particular case, nor will I speak to this particular situation. This just happens to be a very, very large chunk of change that is in the news, or has been in the news in the past few weeks. And it's a story that many people could relate to that have actually done business with foreign countries. And the reason this one is a little bit more obvious to us here in the United States is because it deals with our neighbor Mexico. You've got a better chance on avoiding political risk in Mexico and avoiding the type of political risk in Mexico that will lead you into a federal court in the United States. You have a substantially higher level of political risk if you're dealing with other countries that are not in league with the United States as firmly as Mexico is when it comes to trade and some other legislative decisions and laws, rules, and rulings that enable trade between the two countries. The same example could have been given if it had been Canada and it had been a Canadian country. So overall, the research that you do should encompass not only just the deal that you're investing in or you're going to be getting involved in somehow in a foreign country. The deal also should be an exhaustive research project on the legislative history, meaning, and court rulings of tax and business rules in that foreign country. You also need to be aware that some countries are more business friendly to the United States because of other things that have nothing to do with business than other countries. You need to look at the totality of the relationship and the history. This thing with Grupo is not going to be a disaster for the United States, nor do I think it's going to be a disaster for Mexican companies or U.S. companies overall because of the ruling. I just think it's just another drop in the bucket when it comes to court cases that occur between two nations that have a close tie and a tied border. And those are the types of situations where you can look at the totality and clearly see that if something does go wrong, I have an option to get relief through the courts. If you're looking at other countries, you may not have that. As a matter of fact, what you're probably going to have is a good deal till it goes wrong, and if you get anything back, that's the bonus on top of any insurance coverage you bought. It doesn't always work out your way, and this is why we call it a political risk. This has been the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson.